Greetings, I'm John from TwoBros RC. FMS just released their newest RC jet, the 80mm F-86 Sabre. It looks incredible, so let's see what it can do. The F-86 is a seriously nose-heavy jet. In terms of acrobatic potential, it's still fun, but it's limited in terms of how much tail authority that it has. This is both a good and a bad thing. It's good because you probably won't get into too much trouble with it. It's bad because I can't tumble the jet very well without enough tail heaviness. And you guys know how I like to fly, so I had to approach this review of the F-86 from a different perspective, which was finding ways to enjoy its limitations. I'm not the kind of person who reviews a model and then takes a dump on it because it won't do what another model could. So finding ways to enjoy it and fly it how it's intended to be flown is important for your sake. FMS tossed in the newest Platinum 3665 2000 kV Inrunner version 3, which gives it a ton of acceleration power. Couple that with an SMC 4400 HV battery and you've got a lightweight powerhouse that'll fly with tons of thrust. But what if you don't want to spend that much money for a single battery, even if it is objectively the best battery out there right now? SMC listened to all of you who want its stellar performance but don't want to blast a crater in your wallet. With the newest high cycle life high performance packs that are super cheap and incredibly performant. Look at the flight times I was getting versus even the high voltage packs. The major difference between the high voltage packs and the new high performance packs is the weight. The HV pack is 408 grams, while the LiPo pack is 620 grams, a half-pound heavier, so you'll exacerbate the nose heaviness of this jet if you're flying with them. Getting it to fly neutral isn't gonna be a thing because the tail will scrape if you do. I had the center of gravity balanced almost right over the main wheels, and it was still nose heavy, so there's no way to get this jet to fly neutral that I know of. And if you somehow succeed, you're just gonna tear up the plane, so don't bother. Fly it nose heavy and enjoy it for what it is. Nose-heavy acrobatics can still be enjoyable and fun, and the plus side of it is that you don't need a gyro, literally. It's so positively stable that a gyro is only useful for the jet in the roll axis, unless you crank the gains up to some absurd level, so it's one of those situations where gyro good? No, gyro definitely not useful. Not because I say so, but because it's just so positively stable on its own that it's like flying with a gyro without one. Speaking of center of gravity, now is as good a time as any to mention stall testing. Flying John will do his best to explain what's going on, while voiceover John will fill in any gaps.
Go up, get it zoomed in, 3, 2, 1, power off stall testing, holding the elevator. Oh yeah, it drops a wing. Holding elevator. Actually, it stalls better with the battery further back. The nose goes down, but it doesn't drop a wing. Let's try it again. Just make sure it wasn't a fluke. No, it does. It just, if the wings aren't exactly level, it'll drop a wing. Okay, cool.
I've heard some people call wing drops a flaw in the design of the airplane. Not every plane will have a gentle stall, unfortunately. It doesn't matter whether it's a Cub or a Raptor. Stall recovery is the same. Push the nose down, get the plane flying again, and don't yank the elevator. Every airplane can drop a wing because every airplane can stall at any airspeed. It's important to know stall behavior, though, so recovery becomes muscle reflex rather than a panic attack. The Sabre is a real joy to take off, lifting up on its own with barely any elevator input required to make it rotate. I haven't found many other jets that lift off the ground as gracefully as it does. That's a sign of nose heaviness for sure, but it looks beautiful and it's very true to scale. Uncommon in a world of jets that just launch up into the sky like they've got JATO packs strapped on them. There's not really much to worry about here except that you should be very cautious with rudder on the ground. It has narrow wheels and it'll tip over easily if you go too fast and give it too much steering input. That, of course, leads us naturally to landing. And if you're like me, you unhook the flaps from the speed brakes so that you can perform touch and goes without the brakes being active. Now, this jet does land well with or without brakes, but you're going to need throttle to bring it in with the brakes being active. They're really effective. So a good approach will involve keeping the nose pitched down towards the ground until you're about 10 feet off of the runway. Then slowly feed in about 10% throttle to flatten the approach. Then you'll want to gently pull the elevator to flare it in, and then you're good to go. You can land without throttle if you've separated the air brakes and you didn't deploy them in the air yet. If your brakes do deploy with the flaps because you're on a basic setup, follow my guide again. Bank toward the runway, throttle off until you're low, level the descent, add a touch of throttle, then drop it on the mains gently. If you're not used to power on approaches, it'll feel weird. I promise that it'll feel better than watching the jet crash though. One nice thing about the nose heaviness of this jet is that it's not especially susceptible to turbulence, and it tends to self-correct itself in the sky. Unless you hit some severe wind shear, the jet should cut through turbulence even if it wiggles its arse a little. So I've covered everything. Almost. There's reports on RC groups that the air brake servos aren't so great, and I have to confirm, mine were a little bit on the doo-doo side and burned out on me, but that's because I was an idiot and left my brakes at negative 150% when I attached them, so they stripped and I had to replace them. And let me tell you, it wasn't fun. I ended up pulling them out, cutting the servo leads, soldering new servos onto those cut leads, and messing with it for 30 minutes until I fixed it. Other people just had them fail randomly. Now this may be an issue that you never experience, but if you do, consider joining our Discord server and we'll walk you through the process to fix it, should it ever happen to you at all. The fit and finish on this jet is top-notch, with every control surface featuring gapless hinges and high-quality servos driving the surfaces. The gear are definitely best in class at 80mm and are obviously inspired by the Viper 90mm. They'll handle grass no problem. I don't have flight-worthy grass at the airport to use, but I'd stake my reputation that this jet can take off from most grass runways with no problems at all. I love the ease of adjusting the internals with the ability to unhook the flaps from the air brakes made super simple, and getting to the nose wheel for tunable steering was super easy too. If you want to know how to mix it, join us on Discord and read the Setup Guides channel. I've documented it for you, so it should be super easy to follow along. As for the TwoBros score, this jet earns a solid 9 out of 10. The servo issues reported on RC groups bring it down a full point. The selling point of this jet over other similar sabres is the functional air brakes. If they don't work, that kinda sucks and defeats one of the points of buying it to begin with. But it is fixable if it runs into issues, so don't let that steer you away from it.
That was interesting seeing it get hit by a gust. I haven't seen what it does in a snap roll yet. 3, 2, 1. Okay, it does snap roll. That's pretty cool.
The jet itself flies great. It's not the nose heaviest aircraft that ever heavied a nose, but it's up there. I found it to be a fun challenge to fly because it's outside of my usual center of gravity preference. You might enjoy it too, but for different reasons than me. So consider hopping into Discord and let us know what you think, and be sure to use the code FMS2NR for 5% off of this jet. It's out of stock as of today, December 9th, but it'll be back soon, so pick it up via the link in the description to help support what we do. See you guys next time.